Welcome back to Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? And review episode number 17. Episode number 30. I guess like 33 was it? There it is. 3. Belle Cranel the Fool. Yes, I looked up while rereading this book, Book 10. Now, what this episode adapts from, it adapts from a couple pages they skipped over from the previous chapter, chapter number, I think it was 10, wasn't it? No, I think it was chapter 9. They adapted a couple pages they skipped over from last one. Yeah, just 2 freaking pages. They adapted, for this episode, pretty much the entire chapter for chapter 10, with the exception of like 1 page, and they adapted 3 pages of the following chapter, the epilogue, which is interesting to say the least. Yes, the opening sequence is from the couple pages from chapter 9. Basically, you have Dex Pricks just walking. Now, there's no mention where he's going, just walking the hallway, and then he's killed by a black minotaur. He's like, oh crap, what is this doing here? And my guess is the reason why they put this sequence here, because this black minotaur does appear in the actual chapter itself this episode adapts from. But I gotta say, basically, when they adapted chapter 10, while rereading it, they get pretty much everything in. Like, that was kind of a shock to me, because last week's episode, they cut out like a good chunk of the previous chapter, and this week, they kept pretty much the whole thing in, except for like 1 mention and like a couple pages. But damn, they did a really good job with this. And yeah, the epilogue was pretty much expected, basically. They would include that. My guess is probably next week. They're probably just going to do the whole thing, the whole epilogue next week, and probably start book 11. Now, right after the sequence, which apparently has got new visuals, which they're great visuals, by the way, and then as they finish the opening title sequence, we cut back to where the episode left off last week, where Belle is fighting Winnie from the Loki Familia, and he basically defends, oh yeah, this is my capture, and then of course Winnie removes the spear, runs away, and of course Belle, basically, while chasing down, also has to hit his own fellow adventurers, which this does happen in the book, and a lot of what they say in the book basically does happen. Excuse me. And of course, well, the rest of the Xenos basically come out too. That also happen in the book as well. We have the Black Manta come out and attack the Loki Familia. Yeah, this sequence is also deaf in the book as well. Yeah, the whole, yeah, you're gonna hear that, like a lot of the stuff basically that happened in this episode did happen in the actual book. I would say the only thing they did cut briefly out was basically something with Loki Familia. And there was a mention the fact that when Belle was basically chasing Winnie, he actually went to the Pleasure District, believe it or not. Yes, there's no mention of that in the episode, but in the book itself, that's where he basically went through. When he was going to the Ishtar territory, yeah, he was actually going through their former territory. Which, okay, it's not really a big loss, the fact but it would have been nice if they mentioned that, because that happened that was something that happened in the previous season. It would be nice to have a brief offhand mention, but here, nope, no mention of it at all. And pretty much like the Loki Familia basically have Ainz, the dwarf, pretty much like everybody first take on the golem that Fell summons, and like Antiman, but basically one of the Amazons, the one who's got a thing for the captain, Finn, she's able to beat it basically by slicing the thing in half. And Fell's like, okay, and then of course Hermes helps him out, but that's quite interesting. Hermes basically help him out. And then of course, well, with all these monster sequences, now we have briefly the lizard man fighting, I think it's Ben, I think his name is, the one who's kind of a wolf person, who's also got a thing for Ainz as well. Yeah, they briefly fight, the basically, we also have, well, and then once of course Belle chases down Winnie, they go to what looks like a coliseum, where a bunch of sages basically attack her, though she's able to survive. Then, of course, she's stabbed by one of the members of the Ikaros Familia, though he's killed by Gross. Yeah, he's killed by Gross by simply stomping on him. And, of course, Belle takes Winnie, holds him close, and, of course, takes the thing out. And then Winnie dies. Well, basically, even after Belle restores the jewel, but Winnie apparently dies. And then less than about 10 seconds later, we have Fels coming right behind him and reviving Winnie. Yes, this did happen in the book as well. Even though it's a bit anticlimactic, but I think, and also we have the monsters, the Xenos basically in the area around him, and of course Bell basically like right after when he's revived. Also, we have it where when the I forgot to mention this before I continue what happened here. When the Minotaur comes out, in relation to how which knocks out Lily and Hepburn, the old friend of Miko's. Yeah, surprisingly knock out those two. Now I get Hestia because she's a goddess, but Welf and Minko, I'm surprised those two weren't knocked out. I don't think in the book itself they give an explanation for it. Maybe because Lily basically is a bit weaker than them. That's possible maybe because they're support. That's possible reason for it. Who knows? And of course Winnie stops Welf from interfering, basically because if they do, their familia is basically in trouble. Though of course, after Winnie is revived, Faust thanks Bell for saving Winnie and of course saving Xenos. And he goes off, and of course this happens like right after this kind of is a post-credit sequence, like you kind of cut to the end, then we cut to, and then they're basically like on the bridge, they go off wherever. That probably is going to happen in book 11. And he just walks up to see Elena. This is basically, the whole sequence basically him walking to see Elena, who is his advisor, where she basically confronts basically what happened, slaps him, and then she hugs him. And basically, he admits that everything was true. Yeah, this whole little sequence, this whole thing lasts like barely a minute. Yeah, this takes from the 3 pages they did from the epilogue. Yeah, but there was like the stuff they cut out here, aside from the brief mention about the one with the pledge district, they also cut out basically Ainz basically worried about Bell. Yeah, they cut that out from this book. Quite surprising though. And they also cut out basically the fact that Bell's earned the hostility of the Loki familia. Loki herself does briefly appear in the episode in a cameo, so is Freya. Freya, I think her sequence, may have been named original, where it's like, oh, we have her bodyguard, like, oh, that creature looks very familiar. And this might be the same one that he fought in the previous season, who knows? And that's it. I gotta say, damn good episode. Like, it's quite shocking, though, the way the series go, like last week, they kept like a chunk out. Previous week, they kept a good chunk basically adapted in. And this week, an entire chapter except for like 1 page. Which, that is shocking for the series to do. Good job on JC's staff. So, I think next week we'll probably adapt the epilogue and maybe the first chapter of book 11. If you're curious though, there's only 4 episodes left. So, presumably they're going to adapt book 11 of those episodes. It's possible, yeah. But in the case of basically, like, they might adapt the whole thing of Ainz worrying about Bell. They might adapt it for a later episode, but yeah. Because if you're wondering how long the epilogue is for the book itself, it's not very long. It's only like about 8 pages, basically. The epilogue for book 10. Is this length. Yeah, it's really short, and yet they only adapt 3 pages of this. So they're probably going to adapt the rest of this probably next week, and probably going to also have to start book 11. Yep. So yeah, damn good episode, good pacing with it. I like the fact they kept a lot of the dialogue for the book, which I gotta give high praise to JC staff for doing that. And of course, yeah, Fire Force did the same thing too. But not much else to say about this episode. Damn good. Can't wait for next week, which is basically called Stigmata. Yep, it's Stigmata Downfall. Which, yes, is probably cover the because the whole epilogue chapter for book 10 is not very long, so they're probably gonna go through this chapter pretty quickly, and they're probably just gonna start book 11 next week. Yeah, so that's it for Sigil Review. Stay tuned probably in an hour, basically, when I put up my review for Kaguya-sama Love is War, talk about the finale for Season 2. And that's probably it for today, for videos-wise. But see you in the next video. Bye.